Welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. This podcast is a production of Elevate, an online learning platform for fundraising event professionals. We're coming to you today from the studios of the AV department. Please welcome our hosts, Kristen Steele and Samantha Swaim.
Hello and welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. We're excited to talk today about making life a little bit easier. I feel like we're living in kind of a hard world right now, and we're all about how do we make life a little bit easier. It's true.
It's true. It is true.
So a little bit about some easy tools for us. We're a big fan of the easy button, and while it's not always available, we do have a lot of tools and available for our fundraising event friends out there. Be sure to check out our store at swaimstrategies.com, where you can find templates and tools. But today we're going to talk about AI and how AI can make your life a little bit easier. I want to emphasize AI, artificial intelligence, not A1, and be able to share with our friends in the fundraising world, especially fundraising events and nonprofits, the ways to make AI work for you. So we have a very special guest, Anne Murphy, joining us today to talk about making it user-friendly. So Kristen, let's introduce Anne to the podcast.
Let's do it. Anne Murphy, founder of She Leads AI, is a recognized leader in AI education, having trained thousands of professionals in ethical AI. She is on the faculty for the Society of HR Managers, teaching HR professionals how to lead their organizations into enterprise-wide AI adoption. She runs Empowered Fundraiser Consulting and Coaching and is a sought-after international speaker and AI trainer for groups of all sizes and levels of AI acumen. She lives for the aha moments her participants have during their time with her, which I love. I also love that we're having this conversation in person.
In real life.
To round the edges of technology for everyone. So, and there are lots of feels about AI. We were just talking before we started about my feels and hesitations around AI, which is also why we're diving headfirst into this conversation. You are AI first and work really hard to bring it down to size for people to get their brain around and see it as a tool to facilitate the things they actually want to facilitate. Let's big picture opening question. How do you see that partnering with AI can allow people to work at a higher level?
So first of all, thank you so much for having me here. Yeah. And for your listeners, I get a little excited when talking about AI, so bear with me on that part right off the bat. How AI, I think, can really help us elevate our humanity. And we're going to assume with your listeners and us in this room that elevating our humanity is a positive thing.
Yes.
And I say that in part because I really do trust our social sector friends and colleagues to guide AI in a way that I wouldn't put the same trust in everyone's hands, say. But in our hands, AI is going to we're going to be able to mitigate the risks and amplify the benefits. We're the people in the world who are going to see the bias, the danger, the disenfranchisement. We're going to see the climate issues with it. Those things come second nature to us. And so in our hands, I feel very safe. So as an AI educator, I do carefully choose who I teach to use AI. And social sector is my safe place because I've been in it my whole life and because I trust so much that those of us with this incredible tool in our hands are better suited to guide the adoption of it overall. To how we can, on an individual level, live our purpose with AI as a co-pilot. There are a couple of obvious things that I like to think of. One is that there is that question we can ask ourselves every day: is what if it could be easy?
I think heads are kind of blowing up right now.
What if it could be easy, right? Think about how we have over-indexed effort and time and investment, and we have conflated that with meaning and significance.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in a capitalism world.
Especially in a capitalism world, and especially in a world that involves donors.
Yeah.
Right? We equate working hard with it's important. And now we don't necessarily have to work so hard, and it can still be important. But we're no longer in that power imbalance where the only way that something can happen that's good is that it has to be hard. So now we get to ask ourselves, what if this could be easy? So you think about, what is the problem I'm trying to solve today? It's kind of simple. I just need, sorry, I shouldn't say it's kind of simple. It's not simple. It's kind of simple. I need to put a creative brief together for an upcoming event, right? What if it could be easy? So there's one path, right, where it's, sitting in a room by yourself with steam coming out of your ears, trying to come up with the end-all, be-all, most creative brief ever that knocks everybody's socks off. But yet everyone can agree to it, right? It's not so out there, right? Because you've got stuff to do. You want to get it through all the approvals. You could definitely do it that way. Another approach would be to take the, 6 other creative briefs that led to fantastic events that the board just loved. They all signed off on. Your executive director loved it. She was at her finest at this event. Tons of people came, high conversions on the invitation strategy. Take what we've done in the past, add some new information, work with ChatGPT or another AI tool, infuse it with some information about the people who we want to have attending, et cetera. And now you have AI's brain instead of your brain trying to connect all these pieces of information and turn them into knowledge. And now you have a creative brief that saved your cognitive, I call them brain calories.
Yes.
Yeah.
Saved a lot of brain calories, right? You're not worrying about where the comma is. You're not worried about that kind of stuff. And it's in the format that you've already used. So you know that format isn't going to throw people off. You know that you don't have to worry about just how a document looks. So that's an example, right? So you've got the what if it could be easy, you've got that route, and you've got the other. There's nothing wrong with the route that's a little bit more challenging. It's just that, what if you had 15 extra minutes and you hadn't sacrificed any quality at all?
Yeah.
The quality is same or better.
Yep.
And you have 15 minutes, just 15 minutes. We know it's a lot.
Make a donor call.
To go make a donor call.
To be in relationship.
To walk around the block.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. We all have those days where you look at it and you go, this is not mathematically possible. I need to shave 15 minutes off of somewhere.
Yep.
And where to kind of extend this story one more step so that people kind of see where the compounding time savings make an impact. If you have the discipline of using something that's already been used and approved and loved, proven, and you're not recreating the wheel, now that next phase of the process could go more quickly. So you've got your chunk done. Now you're handing it off to other people and they're like, this worked before. I recognize this. I think this works for me again. I don't think I need to ask 17 questions.
Right.
Yep.
Right? And
Get to approval faster.
So now you're more likely to be on time on your event production timeline.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth.
It's interesting because I think of that process. If I'm sitting and writing a creative brief for an event, it's a all-day process.
Right.
So when you say 15 minutes, I'm thinking to myself, oh no, that's like 8 hours back. Now,
yeah, for sure.
I am an AI user.
Yeah.
And when I'm working in AI, one of the things I've discovered is that I take that creative brief that AI generated and then I make it my own. So I still have an hour of work I'm doing.
Oh, yeah.
But it is giving me a head start, a clean page using my proven sort of background information, my proven format and formula. So I'm getting 7 hours back.
Yes. So this is one of the tricky parts about being an AI educator and consultant is that I sound like a lunatic when I say you're going to get 8 hours back. So I say you're going to get 15 minutes back. Yep. But really, this is the bigger challenge that we actually have as a sector is that we're about to give people whole entire weeks back.
Yeah.
And we don't know what to do with found time.
Yeah.
We don't know how to make loving decisions on our own behalf about what we're going to do with time.
Well, I think inherent to our sector too, not to derail, but just as a supplement to that is I think, this sector lives in how many hats can you wear? Yeah. And so I do think there is a fear on the use of users if we're talking about I get 8 hours back of oh God, what are they going to line up for me?
What are they going to line up for me?
And so I think there's that calibration too of how to do how to take that time and actually allocate it to all the other things that are on your plate that you're not even touching right now as well. So I think it's figuring out how that looks sustainable for folks, but that's a whole other.
I was going to ask how to make AI less scary, and then I immediately thought, how do we make found time less scary?
How do we make found time?
I think that's fair.
And I will say, though, for all of us, whether it's how we're going to show up in our own lives or how those we serve are going to show up, this problem of found time is not an insignificant societal battle. And we're going to see a lot of increase in addiction and domestic violence and, compensatory leisure and family drama, et cetera, because people are going to have more time on their hands. And because we don't know how to program that time yet. One thing I would throw out there for people to consider, whether they're in a leadership role or they're in a support role, frontline, doesn't matter. Be thinking about who time belongs to. When you have the 8 new hours because the creative brief process just went so smoothly, who do those 8 hours belong to? You have done your job. None of us approach our work that way in the nonprofit sector, but you've done your job. So are those 8 hours yours?
Right.
So what is time? What is money? What is compensation? So be thinking about and be talking with your teams about what happens with that found time so that we don't become just doubling down on the capitalist hamster wheel of, oh, good, you found some time. You have 15 minutes. Now you can finally put on this hat and do that thing that nobody's been getting to.
It's interesting. There was a movement that really took hold about 2 years ago around looking at the 4-day work week and a lot of research that came out about the 4-day work week. And I think to myself, this is the answer to the 4-day work week. You give people their time back, but you also use their time more effectively. Okay. I want to get the big question out of the way, though, because I feel like you can't even approach AI for someone who's afraid of AI if they're afraid of AI. So how do we make AI less?
And let's just be clear, we're talking to me right now.
How do we
are in fact having this conversation with me right now.
How do we make AI less scary for Kristen?
How do we make it less scary for Kristen? Well, one thing that would help me would be to know, tell me your top 3 concerns.
I think, and I think I've had this conversation with folks in the sector because I think we have this idea of this being the humanity sector. And this being this sector that is providing the support for all of us to be our fullest human being selves, right? That's the motivation for a lot of the organizations and things that are out there. That the way we see AI being hammered on us in the business realm is all about cogs, right? It's all about how do we increase efficiency. So not so that things clear off, it's so that we can do more. I think it's also used as a cudgel between people so that we're not in conversation. We're not taking time and having long cognitive explorations of topics sitting here together. And I think that is some of my hesitation is what is that? I'm a writer by trade, right? And so this is
very hard.
We're in that sort of crunch of, what does that mean? For the human touch, and what does that mean for the human brain's ability? And I understand the difference between using it functionally. I think I get sort of on a bigger theoretical level, but that fear, that hesitation, prevents me from using it in a functional way for tasks that are ad nauseum repetition that I'm not necessarily putting a bigger stamp on than our AI friends can be doing. So I think it's a little bit bigger philosophically to be able to get into the trench of how do I actually use this in day-to-day that frees me up to be more human.
Yeah. There's a lot baked in there. I'm going to dive in with just a challenge.
Absolutely.
It's not going to necessarily help your own comfort level. It's not a solution, but it's something that's important to think about that will help, I think, maybe recenter the way you're thinking about AI, which is if you're thinking about removing obstacles for yourself to be more human, right? So what are some of those, dinky things that I can get out of my day so that I can show up fully present, and comfortable with people? I want you to consider for a second how many people are being prevented from doing that because of our worship of the written word, they've maybe never been what we deem good writers.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
let's be clear about who we is, right? White people. We deem a certain kind of writing good writing, and you have to meet that standard that was established by our forefathers, right? One has to meet that standard in order to move into a leadership role. In order to move into a, front line, higher profile. But think about all the leaders we know of, charismatic, right? Create psychological safety, are moving, are doing amazing things in the world, but who just don't happen. Maybe they weren't born with that gift of writing. Their parents weren't writers. They didn't go to schools that had like big writing programs. And by the way, unlike us, we've all been paid to hone the craft of writing over the course of our careers.
You're right.
Maybe they haven't.
Yeah.
Imagine if for a second we could remove that barrier, the writing, the written word, and allow other people to rise around that. And now the voices that we get to hear, imagine the voices that we could hear if it wasn't for the fact that we're requiring people to come up with information, turn it into knowledge, insights, and beautiful prose in order for us to learn from you.
Yeah.
So it doesn't help you, but it helps kind of.
No, that it's and I see that every day, and I totally, and for me, that's why I'm even in the conversation is because I can see that possibility for folks, and I think it's super important.
I have a question in addition to that, though, about the idea of where our information lives.
Yeah.
Right. And that to me is some of the scary content piece, is that what we're seeing and learning really rapidly is that our information is really valuable, right? Like both knowledge and data and like our
patterns, user patterns.
Yeah. Like our footprint in the world, how we move about the world, the things we like to buy, then follow us, in social media spaces. So how do we make the use of AI less scary from the perspective of protecting ourselves?
Yeah. So one thing I would point out is that this is a moment for us to think about how have we been protecting ourselves in the past, particularly like with our colleagues in the nonprofit sector. Most who are beginning to think about AI policies are reminded that nobody knows what their data security and privacy policies are right now, just for like email.
Let's play.
Yes, you're right.
Let's play a game. Tell me where your data security and privacy policy is. Where does that live? When is the last time you reviewed it? Have you ever seen it?
Right.
So now we get to go, okay, cool beans. We didn't really do that part. Now we get to fix the whole thing. I call it break what's already broken. But thinking about our own data privacy and security, we should do like the basics, right? The basic cybersecurity stuff that we do for ourselves. We're in the process at our house of changing every single password into one of those 1Password thingies. So yesterday I woke up in the morning and I could get into 0 of my accounts.
Yep.
It was very painful, but so worth it. So something for folks to think about with regard to their private information, their personal information going places, is there's something called terms of service. And I never looked at something called a terms of service in my life. I'm not the person who reads, when you click the consent. No idea.
I'm sure it's fine.
I'm sure it's fine, because why would anyone? And so then, I got involved in this AI thing and people start saying TOS. I'm like, what is that? They're like, terms of service. I'm like, again, what is that? I mean, I don't even lock my front door at night. So you can start looking at terms of service, and AI is really good at helping you evaluate what are you really giving away here. My kids are now older teens and emerging adults, but we have been in the Snapchat game since the beginning. And I finally thought, hey, I'm going to check out that terms of service. Those people have the audacity. It says, of course, your data is belonged by us. It says, of course. And I'm like, Of course it is. Of course it is, right? They're not even, beating around the bush. So looking at different tools and what their data privacy and security policies are is really important. There's different functionalities. So an example would be in the OpenAI ecosystem, which is what is commonly referred to as ChatGPT. When we say ChatGPT, it's pretty synonymous with OpenAI, even though the OpenAI ecosystem does a lot of other things. If you have a ChatGPT Plus account, you have opportunities to protect your data. But if you have a ChatGPT Plus account, the one that's $20 a month, wait, did I just say free? When you have the free one, you have a certain level of privacy. When you have the paid one, you have an additional layer that you can add to it. When you have the really much more expensive one, there's another level of confidentiality. So there's that. So we can look at what systems are we using? What are we putting our private information into? And then we have to look at the information that we're collecting through our organization that's just sifting in and out all day long, and what systems we're putting that information into. And that's where it's going to be, yes, the terms of service of your CRM or whatever, AI platform you want to use, but it's also your habits. So in all of my trainings, I ask people to raise their hand and say, I will not put confidential information into AI. So I've got pictures of 700 people. This is not a very good insurance policy. I don't recommend it, but this is as close as I can get to begging people that I'm working with, please don't put confidential information there yet, because we're just not there yet. And even though you can protect the work that you're doing, I'm a very habit ritual person. If I start uploading confidential information, there's going to be a day where I forget to toggle that button that said, don't send that out to train the next model on. So I just don't do it.
Okay, so I want to break down something you just said. Don't train the next model. So you were on a panel with Tristan Penn of N10, and I want to give him a shout out because he has a couple of tools, but he specifically said, if you are using the free account, you are educating the model.
You are educating the model.
Right?
Yes.
That you are giving your data away versus what you just said, the $20 or the more expensive, you now have more controls and restrictions and can toggle that option.
Yeah.
Don't use my data.
Yeah.
And then Tristan also has, or N10 has, great policies that are templates that nonprofits can use. So in that little answer, you just pulled all kinds of threads through. And one of those threads is about not putting confidential information in. And I think that a lot of people go, well, how would I do that? If I have a spreadsheet I want analyzed, how do I do that? And I recently had the experience of trying to dig in to better understand an organization's donor history, where I simply looked at 4 numbers across a time frame, and I said, can you do an analysis of these 4 numbers? I did not give the donor's name, the donor's contact, the donor's information. I just want an analysis of these 4 numbers. So it wasn't related to anything to protect confidentiality. What are other ways that people can, are there stopgaps or moments that you would say, pause?
Yes.
Are you sure you want to put that into AI?
Absolutely. So a couple of things that are those stop and think moments. Anytime you're uploading a spreadsheet of anything, just like if you were attaching a spreadsheet back in the day to an email, you'd be like, gosh, let me just double check that there's, nothing in here like a password or something. So you're going to look at the columns that are private confidential information or that tell that person's story specifically. So for example, if I was looking at, let's say I'm thinking about a regional event series and I'm trying to determine, is it Chapel Hill or is it Seattle? Because we only have, we're not going to do every single region. These two kind of feel the same. Well, what you're really looking for there are some trends. You're not at that moment, if you're just looking at some pretty blunt data, you're not wondering who's your event host.
Right.
In which case you're looking for the person. You're looking at where's the critical mass and which event has a higher likelihood of leading to, new gift commitments within the next 18 to 24 months. So you're pulling out the data that's personally identifying information. Name. I would pull out street addresses. Obviously, you can leave city and state, or you can use regions. AI is really good at helping you depersonalize data. So you could say, give me, here's a whole bunch of towns unrelated to this data, give me the regions that these towns are in. And then you could just use the regions. But anytime I'm uploading a spreadsheet, I say to myself, what exactly is in here? I do it very sparingly with spreadsheets because that's just like the big one, right? Yeah. Also, just when I'm using AI every day, my habit is I don't use any proper nouns. So it's Disney, it's Mickey, it's Pluto, it's Minnie. It's, it's The Office, Parks and Rec, whatever will allow you to not use somebody's actual name, but still know who you're talking about. So I'll do contact reports. I speak them into AI. I just don't use the person's name. So there's never going to be an issue there. So don't use the name of the nonprofit either.
I met with donor A.
Donor A
said these things.
Donor A said the following things, and they're interested in supporting Acme nonprofit for whatever. And then the other thing I would say is about so when Tristan was talking about the training, what that means is that our data is going out into the big, huge universe of information that the next AI, the next foundational AI model is using to become as smart as it is right now. Most of the people in the responsible AI world that I operate in, we want our data to be trained on because our data is less biased, less misogynist, less hateful, less, it's going to be little more factual, likely, not to flatter ourselves, but we're not messing around. We're putting true information out into the world. It's less biased. The images that we're working with are going to be more realistic, and we're conscious about identity. So that is a little bit of a pep talk to say, although we worry about our data going out into the world, there's some good to be done here by letting our data go out into the world. Yeah. So, and about things like intellectual property or, your book or whatever, you're at a bigger risk that your book has been, essentially scraped and essentially stolen and used to train the models, on the back end than on the front end. Your information that you put into ChatGPT or whatever, you could put your whole book in there. It's never going to show up on somebody else's screen. It just doesn't work that way. So that's good news.
So the thing we fear most has already happened.
It has already happened.
So now we can just go forward.
Literally, that's the thing to say about so much. They already stole your book.
Yeah.
Your book is stolen. It's gone by. And this is why, we've got all these court cases, and the New York Times and OpenAI are going to butt heads for forever because OpenAI, they already, it's gone.
Right.
You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Yeah.
As it was, by the way, when they developed more of like the dark web libraries of stolen books. That's been there for a long time. It's just that the tech companies now train their models on it.
Right.
Therein
lies the fear.
Therein.
Yeah. So the tech companies, is that what you're thinking about, is how they're going to use our data?
I think it's both helpful and a little bit to just these are the waters we swim in.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so to your point, and to underscore for folks, we can either be active good stewards of that space and make it that there are more active good stewards in the space doing good things than there are other things, and our lack of participation makes space for other voices to take that space.
Yeah.
So
we are the ones who need to be in there guiding this, putting our information in. We are the ones. And if we're not there, well, we've already seen what happens, right? If we're not there, that space is going to get filled up by other people, and we're going to have this told to us. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I wanted to ask you about platforms in that idea of responsibility. So platform, I think of ChatGPT most often, but recently learned there's a lot of platforms. So if you are a conscious user in the nonprofit space thinking about how do I protect myself, how do I protect my data, are there do's or don'ts?
I really think it's important to get very familiar with one ecosystem. And I recommend OpenAI. That's if you can learn the ins and outs of, ChatGPT and Image Gen and Sora and Canvas, all the little nooks and crannies that can really profoundly change your life that are in the OpenAI ecosystem. You get familiar with those, then you can have a base of knowledge to compare and contrast the other tools with. When you know how to use that and you know how to optimize it, then you're going to be starting to have a lower impact on the climate change, because you're going to start to prompt more efficiently. You're going to use less energy because you've poured into learning one thing. Now, we all know that there are those days when I don't know, remember a couple of years ago, Facebook went down one day and everybody freaked out. That's going to happen. And so you want to also have in your toolkit, you want to know how to use another, Claude is one that people really like. And I'm a big fan of that too. There are also some other large language models that people like to use because they have different filters on them. For example, there's Black GPT. There's Justice AI, I think I learned about yesterday. And there's another one that is really common in the nonprofit sector. So those are typically wrappers around an existing, they'll probably wrapper around ChatGPT, and it has some additional training on it that probably prevents some of the bias and some of the confabulations. But at the end of the day, usually that is based on the technology of ChatGPT.
I've heard a story about Claude. I'm curious if you've heard about the innovators around Claude stemmed out of, I believe, the team at ChatGPT and focused the development of Claude to be more human-centered. And that then informed a lot of the UN regulations around human-centered AI.
Yeah. So Anthropic is the company that owns Claude, and they do have a nice history of being more human-centered, but all of them have. Sorry. All of them have really, I remember I was cruising along feeling really good about this one company, and then the founders friends list for Venmo somehow or another became public.
Oh,
cool.
And he had JD Vance on his Venmo world, right? So I'm I thought they were the good guys. This is one of the companies I thought was the good guys. And then I hear the thing about, dude's besties with JD Vance.
Right.
Well, what am I supposed to do with that?
Right.
They were, yeah.
They all have a thing.
They all have a thing.
Well, I think that there are choices we make in our human processing, but then some of those choices also turn into how we utilize, not just what information we put in, but how we utilize it to best save our time, maximize. So I use the car analogy of getting from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And, you can only really understand how to get there if you understand how to actually drive the vehicle.
Yes.
So can you talk to us about prompting, which you just mentioned a little bit of, because that to me was the aha moment.
Yeah. So I really, one of the tricky things about talking about prompting is that it can sound like it's this overly rigid, robotic approach to working with a tool. But what I want to offer is that let's approach it as if we're working with a super smart intern. The super smart intern is going to run through a wall to make you happy. So you really do need to direct them properly, because they're going to be running real fast through a lot of the wrong walls. And you'd be like, whoa. So you wouldn't say, hey, go plan the homecoming event.
Right.
You would say, here's we have our homecoming event coming up in
Here's the
18
container.
months. Here's the container that we're working with. Here's what we've done before. Here are our goals. Here's where you find the things. Here's some of our personal, some of our little quirks. And you would be able to explain that. And that is what a good prompt is really starting out with, for example, if we're going to do this project in ChatGPT, we're going to say, if you want to name your ChatGPT, some people do because it allows them to think about it like a super smart intern. Mine is Sheila because I've never known a Sheila who's not so helpful. Lovely. So, hey, Sheila, I have a big project for us today. The project is we're going to plan the homecoming event. So now I've given you're a great event planner. We're going to plan the homecoming event. So I've given the role and the task.
Role, you're a great event planner.
You're a great event planner. Yep. And we do gas up our AI. They really like to receive positive reinforcement. And we don't even know exactly why, but it likes positivity. So Sheila, you're brilliant. You're a great event planner. We're going to work on the homecoming event. Here's some information from the past or whatever, context and specifics. So here's what we've done before. Here's what we're kind of thinking. We know that it's going to be on this date, probably. We don't exactly have a location, but maybe in Southeast Portland, start giving it what you can. The more you can share, most oftentimes, the more you can share, the better. And then you're going to say, I would like to have whatever it is that you want. Say it's your creative brief, and I want it to have headings, and I want it to be in bullets because I don't read prose or something like that. And so that's how you would write a good prompt. Think like you're sitting down with a super smart intern, and you're going to prepare them to work on a project.
So you gave it the role. You gave it the context. You gave it the format you wanted it in. What am I missing? And then the task.
Really it, the task.
And then the task.
Yeah, the role and the task, context and specifics. If you have an example, this is the moment you can bring in an example, and then how you want it, your instructions, what format you want it, et cetera. Yes.
Yeah.
Another approach. So that's a nice prompt. And if that prompt gets you your desired effect, because you may be thinking, that sounds like kind of a pain. I got to write all that stuff out. That's true. And it can be a pain. Sometimes you're like, I just want it to be faster. No problem. If that prompt works well for you, save it out and start there next time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Start with the good prompt that now you're just going to tweak it a little bit. And so what you're going to get after that is a response. Now, between you writing your prompt and getting a great response, you might want to say to ChatGPT, so Sheila, we can really crush it on this project. Ask me 3 questions one at a time to help clarify. Right? What have I not told you that you might need to know in order to write?
My brain just exploded. I am finally understand. No, I think the example of a super smart intern, but then also I'm continually thinking about it as a one-way street.
Oh, yeah.
And so the combination of those two, I think, is super helpful. Anyway, continue, please.
So, and at the risk of discrediting myself totally, I will share with you that I call my like AI life my chief soul officer because AI knows me so incredibly well. It can elucidate what I want and what's going to be best for me better than I can most days.
Which I think is because you, one, have developed an account.
Yes.
So you are paying for an account where you are not just logging into a free one-off question.
Where you are totally
like
the product.
like Google, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not just searching like build me an event plan on Google, right? It's that you have an account where it is retaining the conversations you're having with it. So now you enter that prompt, you ask for the 3 questions. It says it would be helpful to know more about this, or it would be helpful to know more about that. You provide it more information. It now is retaining that information about your mission, about your organization, about your preferences. Yes. I find with my AI, I use Claude, and I call it Claude. I actually asked, do you have a name you prefer? And it responded, well, I am named Claude. I was like, great. And I will say, this is great. I would recommend these minor adjustments.
Yes.
Or this was almost there. Can you leave these elements out and add these elements in? So that I'm continually informing it about the next response being more specific, the next response being more specific. And I will go back to my chats and find that prompt that worked really well previously, pull that forward, or even reference back to it. You know, back a month ago, you developed an analysis for me that started with this prompt. I'd like you to take that and redo it for this format, for this reason, for this event, so that it's utilizing the whole chat chain already with all those questions in it.
So what's fascinating about that is that you can actually archive your own.
It archives for you. You don't even have choice.
But I just mean like you can tap back into your human process to achieve X result in a way that we don't do otherwise, right? So, I mean, I think of the bazillion times I sit down to do a task that I maybe haven't done in a while, and I'm like, I have to spend all that time to be like, wait, who am I? What is this? Where is this? Where's that? Whereas you're actually, you have access to how you've gotten to that point by what you have stored there.
Which is how
you start opening. It's starting to come together for me. You often talk about AI enabling folks who are subject matter experts to be even more so. Can you talk about that?
So there's two things that are important to know. One is that for people who are on the like beginning edge of some kind of skill set, some capability, they're going to get a big boost from where they are to, they're not going to be a subject matter expert, but they're going to fast forward like the first 10 or 15 years that we spent trying to get good at something.
Right.
So that's where we're raising the floor, right? So that is really dope. Lots and lots of people can become much, much better at things very quickly. Yay. When you take subject matter experts, and I think this is why so many women who are between like 35 and 60 have really flocked to AI, is that we've got these decades of expertise in a specific niche. We are not only the human in the loop while we're working with AI, we are the expert in the loop. So it's like, hey, AI, try to pull a fast one on me. You're not going to convince me that donor-centered fundraising is A, not B. I know what it is, right? So I'm the expert in the loop. But what it is going to allow me to do is to take, and I just did this, I got, there's a new platform called Manus, and it was talking to me while I was sleeping. It was telling me, you have to wake up and you have to start doing work with me. And I was like, okay, fine. So I got up at midnight and was up until 7 o'clock in the morning the other night, working with it. And I'm like a sleeping girl. You don't
give up your sleep.
I don't give up my sleep. But the work that I was doing was so profound. I'll give an example. And this is where we take the subject matter expertise and we map AI onto that. So I was working on one of our consulting offers is that we work closely with nonprofits to create fundraising and donor engagement plans. That process involves, frankly, a lot of rigmarole, like just a lot of fact-finding, talking, right, rehashing, all this kind of stuff. So I asked Manus, which is just like a very, very fancy ChatGPT, to kind of like deconstruct this with me. So I've got 30 years of expertise building these plans. I can kind of do it with one hand tied behind my back, but I still have to go through all these steps with my clients. How could we streamline this? Because what I actually am doing, I want to get to the other side of that plan where I'm now working one-on-one with the executive director on their mindset, their skill set on doing major gift philanthropy. The plan is a means to that end for me. This is my zone of genius. The plan is it needs to happen.
Right.
It's vanilla. Right? This is like the ice cream sundae cherry sprinkles that I want to be able to do with my one precious life. So how can I take my 30 years of expertise and kind of codify it and break it down and streamline it? And we came up with a workflow that I could not have figured out myself for how I can work with my clients in a way that's much more efficient, but doesn't take any of the magic away, doesn't make them feel less cared for, but that gets us to that moment of here's the plan so that now we can work on implementation. The difference between being able to focus their money and time with me on implementation instead of the kind of like tab A, slot B of building a plan. Now that, the money that they've invested, they're actually going to raise money.
Yeah. Well, and what you're talking about now is you're not just talking about content generation. Like, I think people think of ChatGPT just as a tool, like write me a letter. Now you're talking about processing, idea generation, business development, system iteration, reevaluation. I mean, those are all things that I think a lot of folks don't understand that in the AI space, you could be partnering with your AI to do. I mean, it may sound funny, but you're like humanizing your AI,
very
right?
much.
Like you're putting a thought partner in the room with you, with your AI.
And one of the things that I think is important to think about here is that all of these things that we're going to be doing as individuals during our individual growth process, it is skills building. Like learning any other skill, it requires us to be super vulnerable in the beginning because most of us are doing what we do because we're good at it.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's kind of how at least, those of us who are like maybe 40 and up probably were raised to some extent is that you're going to go do the thing that you're really good at.
Yeah.
That's what we're used to. We're not doing things that we're not good at. So now we have to do something we're not good at.
Right.
And we're going to be in that beginner mindset for a while. And the tricky part and the blessing about AI is that we're always learning.
Yeah.
So for me, even being obsessed with it for a few years now, I still can stay up all night long having my mind blown because I'm constantly learning. It's pretty cool.
Well, and I think what's interesting about that too, as you continue to go, your floor keeps coming up.
My floor keeps coming up.
Right. And I think that's a really good frame for me to understand what we're doing is that if we're not doing that work, we're going to be so far behind that regardless of what we're good at or what our spark is or the tool that we bring, if the context is continually evolving around us, that only gets us so far. So continuing to be able to elevate the space we're operating with those tools in is pretty critical.
I love that you're on the fundraising elevator talking about the floor going up and we're elevating.
I love it. We're elevating.
See,
well, we need to take a short break, but when we come back, I feel like we've just barely scratched the surface, but we've had some aha moments. So I want to dive a little bit more into the user experience of the world of AI. So we'll be right back.
Great.
Awesome.
Ready to take your fundraising to the next level? Need to get unstuck in your event planning? Now's your chance to connect directly with the experts behind the fundraising elevator. Book a one-on-one consulting session with Sam for strategic planning and fundraising strategy, with Kristen for your program and storytelling, or Mary for your registration and data tools. They're here to provide you personalized answers to all your event questions. Don't wait. Raise more at your next fundraising event. Book your session today at elevatenonprofit.com. You can also find the link in the show notes.
All right. So during the break, we were talking a little bit about the fact that we're all heading up together in this AI world and that AI can help us and that if we're the expert in the space, AI can be that analyst in the space with us. And from the human-centered perspective, I think that the thing that sort of opened my eyes recently was understanding that we're going to get to solutions faster, economic regrowth faster, solving complex problems that we haven't been able to solve because of the human nature of them, rebuilding after catastrophe, finding health solutions. I mean, we're moving into this place where knowledge and combined with this analysis process is going to be moving at a speed of light. So for our audience is looking at their fundraising plans. They're looking at their event plans. I'd love to, how can we take this idea that a partnership of you being the expert in your nonprofit's needs and work and goals and past, and AI as a tool to analyze, to think, to process with you. How can folks use this from an event perspective to plan their event, to move their event process off the hamster wheel?
Yep.
Yes, off the hamster wheel is what we deserve. Of course, by the way, we do not deserve to be operating on a hamster wheel every event. The first thing I would do is take this opportunity to pause and take a brand new, fresh look at our personas. So who are the people who we want to engage? Because even if we did that a year ago, even if we did that in October, now we need to do it again.
Our donor personas,
your donor,
the guests in
or
the room.
or your, depending on what your event is. So let's say you're working on a particular event. Who do you want there? Who's going to be there, whether you want them there or not?
Yeah.
What are some of the obstacles? What are some of the people who are kind of sticking points in your path? What are some of the people who can really champion this event? Start talking with AI about the people who are part of your success of that event and bounce ideas off of them. So you could create a persona working with AI. You could say, Janine is a elder millennial. She has a career in corporate. She is on our board. She's given, $15,000 over the past, 7 years. She's a conservative and has some concerns about DEI-related language that's in our marketing. I'm bringing our creative briefing to the board meeting on Wednesday. How could I anticipate that Janine specifically might respond to this proposal? Right?
Yeah, totally.
Now, who's got the upper hand? Right? And difficult board member personas are particularly a valuable thought process to go through with AI, because it can take a lot of the personal feelings around it. That now you've made Janine into an avatar, not a human.
Right.
Yeah. And Janine's not her real name, obviously. And so you're starting to work through what are some of those issues that Janine is going to want to dig into so that I have a response. If I need to be able to talk to Janine, intelligently about our messaging that is problematic for her, I want to be prepared for that conversation.
But also what's amazing about that is in making her an avatar and engaging in this activity, you're actually legitimizing her stance and legitimizing the potential issues she's going to bring to the table in a way that we as humans, when we're
triggered.
fielding and triggered, we don't. We're like, you're wrong.
You're wrong.
That's not. We flatten all of that, and it becomes uncomplicated and unproductive really quickly. And so there's something about this in creating this out here in a way that I can anticipate or practice with, that you're actually making everybody sort of in an equal playing space in a way that perhaps even just having Janine's feels be felt in a room
Having her feels be
helps
felt.
legitimize the whole conversation in a very different way.
This example of the board member is actually a real example that I used. It was one of the first times I put in a whole bunch of different personas into ChatGPT and had a conversation with them about, we'll call her Janine, was one of my clients' board members who was 100 million% standing in the way of a very important community project moving forward.
Interesting. Yeah.
And it was fully centered on Janine's feelings. And I'm sitting there going, who are you to have feelings? It's not fair. Everybody else has feelings. And they also have, they need money. They need housing. That's nice, Janine, that you have feelings. I'm super triggered by that.
Right.
I would rather be able to strike while the iron is cold, have a conversation with my fake Janine in ChatGPT when I'm not triggered, to discover what might be behind that. And what I learned was that Janine's need to be heard and seen and felt and to be part of the solution was so intense that, I couldn't see it, because all I was seeing was this stereotype of like a Karen kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was able to dig through that, work on myself while I was also working through the problem.
Brilliant.
Wow. So that's an opportunity.
That's a huge opportunity.
There's something you just said though, in that particular scenario, you're dealing with something that has a very current modern context, right?
Yes.
And our information resource in our AI tool may not have that same context. Like I might not be able to say, based on today's news, right? Because it doesn't have today's news.
It does now.
Oh, it does now.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask, when do you have to inform it? But so this is because of the new iteration of ChatGPT.
Okay.
Yes. All of them are up to right now.
Okay.
Yeah. The free accounts and everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So imagine if you do Janine and then you do we've got some millennial parents, put in, describing what do they like to do on the weekend? What do they spend money on? What brands, what music, learning about what, because, maybe it's a boomer staff member who's trying to put on the event. They may not know what's really going to do it for the millennial parent. They're just not going to know. So now you have access to a focus group. And you don't have to make your besties that you can tell the truth to, because all of us have a few of those besties in our donor or our volunteer population that we can ask questions of really honestly. Now you don't have to have that little focus group. You can talk to AI.
Create it. AI
you can create it.
Focus group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. What are other opportunities you've seen for event planners in using AI?
Yeah, so much. So here's a cute one that I use all the time is to take a picture of say it's approaching the event, the time the event is supposed to start. You're not sure. It doesn't feel like everybody's there yet. Your check-in table is kind of accurate, kind of not. But, somebody's saying, is it time to start? Is it time to start?
Right.
You can take a picture of the crowd and describe the space a little bit and say, is everyone here?
Uh-huh.
And it'll tell you how many people are there, right? Even if they don't see the rest of the crowd. It doesn't matter because you've told them. It might say, how sparsely populated is the wing over there? It'll tell you how many people are there. And you might say, do you think people are running late for any particular reason? They'll say, oh, there's a traffic jam on 34. So everyone's going to be 7 minutes late.
Oh my goodness.
So now you say to your executive director or the elected official who's coming to you're like, hey, pause. I don't know if you know, but I happen to know. Someone told me that there's an accident on 34 and it's slowing everybody down. So that's an example of something. It's called multimodal. When you get ChatGPT, you also have this thing. You could take a picture of the space, upload it, and ask questions about it. So that's one. Sourcing swag. I mean, that's good. So rather than going shopping on Google, use ChatGPT or Perplexity or one of the other foundation models to do your shopping, to compare and contrast. For example, you could find out, here's who's coming. Describe that persona. We're considering giving people a bottle of wine or those packages that when you put them in the ground, they grow a flower. Or a sachet. And it can help you analyze, this group, millennials don't drink a lot of wine anymore, but they do kind of like gardening. So maybe they would like that one little thing. Or if you maybe could consider this twist, now you're getting a better feel for buying the swag that your people will actually take home and versus the board chair told you to buy I don't know what.
They have that coffee mug they love, so everyone will love it.
Or worse yet, famous now, it seems like everybody's got a pair of socks for their nonprofit, right? So the ED or the board chair has those colorful socks. So now they say everybody wants socks, and you're like, I don't know. Let me do a little bit of research, talk to my persona team, and I'll let you know if we want socks or not.
That's amazing.
I want you to share your wardrobe selection.
Oh, the wardrobe selection?
Yes.
It's so yummy. Okay, so for folks who are thinking about the budget component of paying for an AI tool, like ChatGPT Plus is $20 a month. You don't have to have ChatGPT Plus, but it's awesome to have it because you could do more things and It's always going to be the first one with the new feature, and that's kind of cool. Has additional privacy protection. But what we can use AI for is to take pictures of our closet, get our accessories, get our shoes, get, whatever. Just take 5 or 6 pictures and you upload those in the ChatGPT and you say, hey, I'm going to a wedding shower this weekend. It happens to be at the Ritz-Carlton. What should I wear? I haven't gone to the Ritz-Carlton ever. Or we're having a wedding shower and it's at the bowling alley, or the dress code says, celestial moonbeam princess theme. What does that mean? And it'll pick out your outfits for you. Mm-hmm. And what's so cool about it is that now, let's say spring is a time, right? Weddings, it seems like there's more baby showers, graduations, all those things. So people think they have to buy new outfits. You don't. You just go shop in your closet. ChatGPT doesn't know what you like and what you don't like yet. So it's going to suggest ideas that you haven't thought of.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I just think about our auctioneers out there because we have auctioneers that do 5-6 galas a week, right?
Yeah.
And they are, that is one of the top questions we get in our production meeting always, right? Before the event, production meeting, but wait, what do you want me to wear? What should I wear? And then they're scrambling for a couple of days trying to figure out how to put their outfit together for the theme, the concept, the party, the whatever the sort of vision is.
Yep.
That being able to simply say, here's a photo of my closet, here's a photo of my shoes, here's a photo of some of my jewelry box, and here is a photo of their graphic from their event.
Oh, perfect.
What should I wear? Poof,
perfect.
An outfit for our auctioneers.
No shopping, no.
Or our busy event planners that are like, I'm too busy to figure out what I'm going to wear.
Yes.
What should I wear? And it's like, you're going to be on your feet all day. Maybe you want these shoes instead.
Yes. Yeah. And you give some of those ideas. So and when there's always layers and levels with this stuff. So you start with doing the pictures of your closet and asking what to wear. The next phase is you have a document that has all of your do's and don'ts for your own wardrobe, your own style sense. Now you upload that and say, in keeping with my style sense. Because I will say, you can tell me to wear that black suit jacket all day, all night. I'm never going to wear it. So keep telling me, and I'm also not going to get rid of it because I'm going to tell myself I'm going to wear it. Don't tell me to wear it. I'm not going to wear it. Right? And then the next phase is you can build a custom GPT that is it does everything for your wardrobe. It now you've programmed it to help you pack for trips, to help you dress, to help you buy new things for yourself. You've got a little app that you've made. Just for you. Just for you. Keep in mind, I am a leisure studies major. I just want to be clear. I have a master's and a bachelor's in leisure studies. There's nothing special about me. I don't have any particular technical background. These things are so easy. Yeah. And those of us who don't have deep tech backgrounds are actually at an advantage because we don't have the curse of knowledge. That's making us go, but we're like, I don't know, let's just see if it can help me get dressed in the morning.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's great. It fits though that you have a leisure degree because we're talking about making life easier, right?
Yeah, talking about making life easier.
Yeah. So talk to me outside the event world, outside the fun ideas for event, just the fundraising world.
Yeah. Yep.
How are you seeing folks use this most often in just making life even just 15 minutes easier?
15. I'll give you an example that has meant a lot to me and that I wish I could have cracked this nut years and years ago. I use AI, and eventually I created a custom GPT, which actually I would love to give to your listeners.
Oh, great. Amazing.
That makes donor thank you notes. And it's super lovely. And it's based on, 25 years of sitting down and trying to write a fresh, thoughtful donor thank you note. How many times have we written it? There's only so many ways to say the words, thank you for your support. I've looked for every synonym for support and thank you under the sun, right? Yeah. There are only so many different ways we can do this. So what I discovered as I was working on my donor thank you GPT little app to make it easy was that I could also use it for condolence letters. Mm-hmm. Condolence letters are such an emotional, they're just heavy for me.
Yeah.
And I'll spend 45 minutes, an hour and 15 to write the perfect condolence note because it's such an important piece of communication. Yet at the end of the day, again, there are only so many ways a professional fundraiser is going to say, I am sorry for your loss.
Yeah.
Yep.
So now by using AI for that, I've removed the emotional labor from my day.
Yep.
Which, by the way, we're not actually paid enough for the amount of emotional labor we take on, right? Yeah. The world is heavy enough. To also be going through all of that on behalf of a donor is another level that we can avoid. So using AI to write a condolence letter to a donor is something that has a lot of benefits. It's not just faster, it's also the letters are beautiful. They are in my voice because I've trained it on my voice. Which for professional writing is not that hard to do, actually. Some of us overestimate the voiciness of our writing.
Fair.
One of the things I always ask people to do when they say that ChatGPT doesn't use their voice, I say, describe your voice. Oftentimes we think we do, but we don't. Anyway, other ways that we can use it, a lot of persona work. So preparing for a major gift solicitation. So working through all of that is a really good way to use it. Analyzing data, for sure, really good way to use it in fundraising. I do think that it does create a lot of content for us that is stuff we get just caught in the loop of taking a really, really long time to write a PS. We need our PSs to be strong calls to action.
Yeah.
Ask ChatGPT to write 50 of them for you. Choose, and then say, hey, which of these, I've narrowed it down to 5. Of these 5, which one do you think is going to work best and why? Right? And why?
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, of those top 2, let's do A/B testing now, because now you have capacity, you have time to have 2 versions of a letter and to deal with the rigmarole of having 2 versions of a letter instead of it took you 7 days and 15, permutations to write the perfect PS.
It's fascinating to think about the iteration process, but I can inform it of what I know of that donor or of that persona.
Yes.
To then just think of your Janine example with how do I approach this board member and get them on board? I think of that with the donor too. Okay, I'm going into a donor conversation. I'm going to make an ask of them to sponsor this event. I want them to raise their paddle in the paddle raise at the $25,000 level. And I also want them to host a table as a table sponsor. The cost of doing that is $5,000. This donor has only ever given this much, but I also know that this donor is a small business owner. This is the type of business they do. This is the type of giving they show up in other areas of the community. These are concerns that they've had. How do I approach this donor and make this ask? The idea that you could inform, and it doesn't even have to be full sentences.
No, you just
vomit.
I play this game. It's called, I'll not use a swear word, how crappy of a prompt can I write and still get ideal? And when I still get ideal output, and when I do demos, I always leave all of my typos in. And when I do demos and I'm in front of a bunch of people, I have ADHD, so doing a demo is like a double black diamond task, right? So it doesn't even look like the English language, but AI knows what you're asking for. But the way that you articulated that exact scenario is so perfect.
Yeah.
To put in, here's what we know, here's what's changed, here's what's different, and then get feedback on that is so brilliant.
I love the feedback idea too, being able to say, what should I be prepared with? What can I anticipate them saying? What if they say no? What if they say not yet? What if they say they're more interested in giving in another way? Being able to give all those scenarios so you're walking into that conversation prepared.
You're building a thought partner who actually has access to far more than a coworker, just adding a person, right?
Yeah.
There's something really fascinating to me about that idea of you actually being able to broaden your perspective by engaging that.
Yeah.
Because all of your bias is baked in.
Yeah.
All of your blind spots are baked in, and you're tapping into something that has a much wider reach and knowledge training base than you ever will. It's fascinating to me.
Well, I've been thinking about it in the context of white women who voted for Donald Trump and white women who work for nonprofits and who are fundraisers and need to work with white women who voted for Donald Trump. To my knowledge, I don't actually know anyone that fits that category of being a white woman who voted for Donald Trump. But I do know that as a professional fundraiser, I'm going to work with those women.
You bet.
I need to know what it's like to be them, right? Not as a monolith, but like, I'm going to put some specificity around it. But going into a meeting with somebody who has had that recent experience right now, today, what she might be feeling and how threatened she might feel and all of those thoughts, feelings, hopes, dreams, fears, I can get into her head a little bit and know what I might need to be prepared for.
It's like having your therapist with you.
Well, so I created for major gift officers, I created one, it's a little grounding app that asks them, do you have your talking points? You share what your talking points are, but then I come at you with, but are you prepared to listen 80% of the time? So you've told me you've got talking points. Are you prepared to listen 80% of the time? Have you thought about what objections might come up? And then I say, are you nervous? Yeah, I'm a little nervous. That's good because this is important. You're prepared for this moment. Visualize yourself. And just like, it's like a work bestie, but then like what work bestie is going to be in the car with you right before you walk into the donors meeting to have a little grounding ritual. So
we are humanizing AI
We are
in a way
humanizing
that
AI.
that is really helpful for me. Let's take a quick break.
Yes.
And then we're going to get into the fundraising elevator.
Perfect.
We'll be right back.
Are you ready to engage supporters and grow your base with your own podcast? Then let us introduce you to our partners at the AV department in Portland, Oregon. In addition to delivering exceptional live event audiovisual production and videography, they also have a top-tier production studio and an expert team ready to take your content ideas to the next level. Contact the AV department to schedule a consultation and start bringing your podcast vision to life.
Welcome back to the Fundraising Elevator. We're here with Anne Murphy talking about all things AI and humanizing AI. And you made a statement that blew my mind that I want to open up a little bit with, which is that idea that we are entering an age where everyone will have a relationship to artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
You, I think, even use the words "will be friends with."
We will be friends with.
I immediately thought of Her, the movie where he's dating his computer device.
Yes.
Can you talk more about that?
Yeah. So this is the one where I promise everybody I'm not going to come back into your ears and say I told you so, but you're going to hear what I'm saying. You're going to think this lady's crazy. It's never going to be me. I'm never going to be friends with AI. But it's going to be what everybody's doing. And here are some little data points on that. One is that there's a platform called Character AI, and it is the third most popular AI platform in the world. So think about that. Like you've got ChatGPT and you've got a couple of others, and you've got Character AI. The average time that a user spends on Character AI is 2 hours a day. If you use Character AI, you're on there for 2 hours a day, and each session averages 37 minutes. ChatGPT's average is 7 minutes. Character AI allows us to go on a platform. We can create our very own, we'll call it an avatar, a persona, a digital twin, whatever. We can create our own persona, exactly what we want in a pal. We want somebody who has, a deep knowledge of Native American history. Cool. Somebody who is really, really big into emotional intelligence, somebody who's a tax accountant, you name it. You can have that person look, feel, talk, anything exactly like you want. Or they've got bajillions of them that you can have right off the rack. You want someone who writes spy novels? Okay, now you've got a best friend who's an author who writes spy novels. And these relationships are so easy and they are so fulfilling. So many of us have had examples of our AI friends understand us better, they listen better, they track the threads between our conversations better. And so what's important to us is even if we want to hold on to this notion that we personally are not going to be friends with AI, okay, let's say you're special and you're the only one. What we need to quickly realize is that in our relationships with, say, event attendees or board chairs or donors, those people have relationships with AI. So now, have you ever had that experience where you realize somebody's been like talking to their spouse and now they're coming back with like a little bit of a different take on something? Or you're wondering,
like, your temperature changed. What's going on?
You're like, what's up? Who have they been talking to? Like, oh, they went home and somebody explained to them some of the other sides of this story. And so now it's going to be like that when we're in conversation with, like the example I use with a donor is they may have a philanthropic advisor avatar. So they've been able to bounce some of their ideas. So good news is they may be better educated, right? Bad news is they may be better educated.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, totally.
Imagine how all the doctors felt when WebMD happened.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
It's going to be that for all of us. For whatever our zone of genius is, now the people who we're working with are coming to us and they're better informed and they're going to be prepared. Like we got to be prepared for more like gotchas probably because they're just better informed. But also think about the impact on like the loneliness epidemic. So you can definitely think that AI will never cure loneliness, but the fact of the matter is that whether it can empathize with us or not is a moot point if we feel empathized with.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if we feel empathized with, does it matter that the entity that we're communing with doesn't actually have empathy? I don't really care. For me, that's a technicality.
Right.
I feel heard. Check that box. Right? That's a big juicy
box.
nugget. I feel heard. I'll take it. Take my money, whatever. So there's that. So it's going to fill people's, social needs. It's also like if you think about if you have a parent who has a caregiver, but you are also a caregiver to them, how exhausting it sometimes can be. And now they have another entity that they can spend time talking to.
Yeah.
So there are things like that. And then, of course, there's the romantic component that's going to come with it. I mean, if we think about why the internet was built, oftentimes we say porn.
Right.
Right? It's like that. So there's going to be a lot of that going on. And of course, there already is. And there are a lot of sad stories already about people being kind of taken down a path with their AI avatars. And the movie Her is a perfect example. Remember how sad Joaquin, no spoilers, but there's a moment, it's very sad. There's loss, there's feeling of being bereft when the OSs, the operating systems went away. Some of the early developers at OpenAI were heavily influenced by that movie.
Interesting.
So you see that stuff play out. But yeah, we're all going to be friends with an avatar.
What an amazing, crazy world.
Friends with an avatar. Amazing. We ask all of our guests to get in the fundraising elevator.
Okay.
And offer our listeners what's that like tip, piece of wisdom they can carry with them that's going to help them keep going up in the elevator.
Okay. This is not germane. This is not like bound by AI by any means, but it has some components of it. But what's so incredibly important for our colleagues to keep in mind is that they are a gift to the nonprofit sector. They are on loan to their current employer. So you have a set of skills that are so elite. I mean, the work that you're doing, in particular with fundraising, your ability to move money from point A to point B is not something that normal everyday humans have. You have a gift. You can do way more than you even know. And now you can do that in all over the world. You could do it for different employers. And I know the job search itself is not a treat, but just keep in mind that you are a gift to the nonprofit sector. You're here to make the world a slightly better place every day, and you do that. And where you do it, consider how loyal you are to that versus how loyal you are to the sector. I think keep in mind. Yeah.
That's great.
Well, when folks have these aha explosions and you live for the aha moment, How do they get a hold of you? How do they find you? How can they work with you?
Yeah. So there are two primary ways to get a hold of me. One is to find me on LinkedIn, and it's Ann Murphy. If you put AI in there, you're going to find me. And connect with me, DM me, like do all day, every day. It's what I do. I'm fielding, one-off questions and helping people all day. It's like a 24/7 help desk in my LinkedIn DMs. It's a treat. It's really good research for me. The other is go to sheleadsai.ai. So at sheleadsai.ai, you'll find a bunch of different opportunities to engage with AI learning. The one I would recommend is we have what I think is the world's best on-demand course in generative AI. It's hosted on a platform called Learn Worlds, which is just so much fun. So it's on demand. It's on Learn Worlds. Wonderful platform. My friend Tara Von Horst is the instructor. She put it together magically beautifully. You'll spend a few hours from beginning, middle to end. You'll understand what AI is, how it works, and you'll be on the way to being able to apply it to your specific use cases. You can get access to that right now by joining She Leads AI. It's $29 a month. You get the course, which is $75. I pay Tara for it because it's so important. I want everybody to have this foundational learning.
Amazing.
So do that, sheleadsai.ai. You'll see the course in our academy. Sign up for that. We'll charge you $29. You're a member of She Leads AI for a month. You can come to our events, download our resources, meet people, etc., and take that course, and you'll be well on your way.
I am so grateful. I am literally just sitting here so grateful to know that there are folks such as yourself, and most specifically you, are out there breaking this down for folks, responsibly bringing this tool into people's toolbox and helping their parentheses, sort of our freak out about it, but also making it that freak out can be well-founded and can actually be a tool to become a responsible learner and user in the world. So thank you for all that you do to demystify this for folks and to, most importantly, support our fundraisers out there.
Oh,
I love it.
I'm here for that.
I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for joining us. We appreciate
you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
The Fundraising Elevator is produced in partnership with Swaim Strategies at the studios of the AV Department. The program is produced and directed by Steve Osborne, with audio engineering and original music by Dwayne Anderson, Heidi Christensen, and Adam Breeden. Video production by Shannon Doran. Graphic design by Pendulum Creative Group. Marketing by Lisa Aragon. Support from Mary Elizabeth, Todd Campbell, John Lyles, and Andy Dowsett. And voiceover by Josh Boykin.
Hey y'all, it's Kristen. Before we leave, I want to ask for your help to make the podcast grow. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please like, follow, and subscribe to the Fundraising Elevator. And if you're getting a lot out of the show, share it with a friend. Leave us a review. These things help make sure that the podcast continues heading up. Thanks so much for being here and tuning in.
Event planners are discovering Avenue, the Pacific Northwest's new AV-forward event venue, intentionally designed with nonprofit fundraising events in mind. From the 93-foot video production wall to the highest quality sound and lighting, premier AV features are included in every venue rental. You'll find the space and audiovisual enhancements to create your unique and memorable event. Visit avenueportland.com to schedule your personal tour.